And we're back with It's Time to Listen, a video podcast by Nina Meyer. Today's guest is Congolese actress and founder at Black Market Creatives, Patricia Balusa. Today, Patricia's going to share some of her thoughts of growing up in Kinshasa, racism in the UK, and the continuing exploitation of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Okay, hi, I'm Nina.
Hi, I'm Patricia. For the government, I work in primary school settings where I work as a learning support assistant.
Yeah.
I do one-on-one work with a child with learning difficulties. And I've been doing that for 3 years. But in my own time, I work with Save the Congo.
Okay.
And we do campaigns and important events to raise funds for projects. And also, I like to write quite a lot.
Okay.
And I act as well.
Okay, wow. Okay, what's your connection to Congo? Were you born there? Were you born here?
Oh, yes. Well, my parents are from Congo, and I was born in Congo as well. I'm from Congo as well.
Yeah.
I lived there for 9 years and a half, and I came here around January 2000.
Here, do you still have a lot of memory of living in Congo? Where in Congo were you born, by the way?
In Kinshasa.
Okay,
like
so
the
in the capital.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, even though I've lived here longer, I feel like most of my precious memories are from Congo, actually.
Okay.
I think it was the happiest years of my life.
Oh.
Even though I had less, looking back, I realised that I was a happier child than kids I see in this country.
When we had the point where you moved when you were 9 years old,
Yeah.
What would you say was the biggest change as a kid?
I noticed a difference in society. I think people in London, I don't want to say like Britain because I haven't lived everywhere, but London in particular were more closed in comparison to Kinshasa. You can go to your next door neighbour's house to borrow salt. Like, you can't do that here. Like, I can't knock on my next door neighbour and be like, I've got milk. Like,
so that must have been
that was such a big change, and to learn you can't talk to strangers, you can't talk to people. It felt almost like an isolation beside not speaking the language, which was a big change for me as well, and I struggled with that quite a bit.
What's your mother tongue?
Lingala. I spoke Lingala and a bit of French.
Right.
Not the French, but you know, the Congolese French. Yeah.
And so are you still speaking that language actively? Or?
Yeah, I do. Not as well as I used to. Now I'm more comfortable in English, but I can speak Lingala still quite well. I understand it completely. Okay. So if someone's talking about me, I'd pick it up really quickly.
What was the biggest difference you noticed in school?
Well, I got bullied, and I'd never been bullied before.
Here in London?
Yeah, I got bullied in London. And even though I couldn't understand half the things that were said to me, I noticed kids were more cruel here.
Was bullying generally a problem here? Were a lot of people bullied, or did you feel like this was a problem that you were facing?
Looking back, I'm realising that bullying is a big problem here in particular. But at that time, I felt like it was me. It was just me because I don't understand the language. People are just mean to me.
And did you feel like the bullying partially or mostly came from the fact that you didn't speak the language that well yet?
Yeah, it did. Because some comments were based on the fact that I actually stood out. Even when I started to understand things, it was the bullying came from the fact that maybe my mom didn't comb my hair well. Maybe my hair's nappy. My accent. African this, African that. So I did sense that was such a big difference because back home in Congo, we tend to welcome people who are different. We tend to want to get to know them and to want them to feel welcomed. Whereas here, it was kind of like, you're different, you're not with us, you speak funny, you don't understand.
What are some kind of everyday racist encounters that you have to face?
I think one of the major ones was me and my friend, we went, I think we were like 15, we went to visit another friend in Bromford, and there was a couple of white boys, I think around our age at the time, across the road, and you sense the awkwardness sometimes when you're walking because it goes from a bunch of people having a conversation to them going really quiet, and so you sort of feel like, oh, okay, my presence has sort of made the atmosphere a bit uncomfortable. And then just as we sort of walked past them, we had banana skin thrown at us whilst they were making monkey noises. And I think one of them was like 15. One of them said something like, either go back to your country or go back where you came from.
How did you react?
We didn't react because we couldn't afford to. Because in a way you think, well, they're right. It is their country. That's what because you don't feel like you're sort of just reminded that you don't really belong, you know, because at that time I was still sort of finding my feet, trying to belong, and so that was sort of like, okay, you know, it isn't my country, so what can I say? And then there's that fear of I could potentially lose my life by trying to stand up for myself, so I'm not going to do that. And yeah, so we both just didn't react. We tried to laugh about it after. We're like, oh my gosh, they were so dumb. But, you know.
I mean, you were 15.
Yeah, but then when you get older, you're like, that was actually really bad. And also that I used to get called the N-word quite a lot in
here.
Yeah, my family moved to Harrod Hill at one point, and I think that was the worst time we saw like we had racist attacks on us, because my house was like a 10-minute walk from the bus stop, so every day walking that long road, it was the N-word this, N-word that, like across the road shouting at me. And it was so ironic because as I was saying this, they were playing 50 Cent in the background. So they were like playing like real rap music and they'll be dancing to it but still be shouting abuse at me.
And how old were you there?
At that point I was quite big. I was like, was I like 17?
Yeah. And would you say that at that age you had already almost become used to it?
Yeah, you kind of become used to it because at that point you talk to friends who have encountered the same thing. So you're kind of like, this is our reality. So when it happens, you're not like shocked. But one thing that did shock me at that point was they started. I think at this point I went to uni, and when I visit, I noticed that the letterbox was closed. And I asked my mum, why is the letterbox closed? She said the police kind of put a wood on there instead. She said, because they started sticking fireworks inside letterboxes. And looking back now, I've learned recently that that's something that I think the KKK used to do, or was sort of a racist attack that was known to be done to black people. And so that was kind of like, thank God I didn't know what that symbolized back then. I just knew it was a racist attack. And they used to write like N-words outside our front garden.
Has it come to a stage where like you speak up for yourself?
I would never take racism at this point.
Yeah.
Unless there was like 20 of them and I'm by myself and it's 10
so
p.m.
When was that change for you, when you started speaking up for yourself?
When I just started learning about my history.
Right.
And you just get sick and tired at one point. Yeah. You're like, actually, my ancestors took a lot of this, so I don't have to take it anymore. Yeah. You know, and you sort of think actually, your country takes a lot from mine, so I don't have to take your harsh words anymore. Yeah. You know.
Okay. When you do face racism, has there ever been a case, when someone else was like, "Don't do this," or have you mostly felt like you were on your own?
I always felt like I was on my own. Yeah. There was a time where this was actually in Woolwich. I was on a bus and I think there was 2 white men and 1 white girl, and I think they were causing a disturbance. They were really loud. And everyone's turning around looking at them. And I was looking, and the girl was like, "What are you looking at, Blackie?" And I was sort of like, yeah, I was like, don't talk to me like that. And then they started imitating like African accents. Okay. I think maybe back then my African accent was a lot more strong. And so they started mimicking my accent. And no one on that bus said anything, you know. And these are the things that you remember, you know, you don't forget, because when people do that to you, they take away a bit of your dignity, and the bystanders don't say anything. It makes you feel like maybe they're right. That's what it does to you. Right. And so the next time it happens to you, you think, well, they were right last time, so they're right again. It makes you give in, you know. And
so how long did that go on until you really felt comfortable here?
It took me a couple of years, to be fair. Yeah. I think I started to sort of feel confident and comfortable in myself in London when I'll probably say like 16.
Okay, wow, 15, so a long time.
Yeah, it took me a while. Yeah.
And during that time, did you often feel like, I just want to go back to Congo, or was it more like, I wish this was different here? Yeah, it was a bit of both, because I did see the good things about being in London. It was I could eat food whenever I want. Okay. Like there's some things that are quite controlled in Congo in terms of like poverty that wasn't controlled here. Right. So it was kind of like, I wish I could take the good from both and sort of mix it. So I miss the environment, the atmosphere in Congo. Right. I miss how happy people were with so little.
But then I was happy that I had access to a lot of things here, education, without having to worry about paying for it, you know.
Is education generally paid for in Congo?
Yes.
Primary education?
Yeah, because sometimes I was out of school quite a lot because we couldn't afford education all the time. So it was that thing to have. I wanted to have good from both sides and sort of mix them together.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you were young when you were going to school in Congo, but your history lessons, was it a curriculum that was more based on Congo, or was it a curriculum where you felt like this was an external curriculum, like European curriculum?
I would say it was like an external curriculum. I mean, just the fact that we spoke French, the fact that if you speak French, you're seen as more educated to begin with, says a lot about even our mentality there. So it's almost like whatever is connected to Europe is seen as more precious than what's actually in your own culture.
Yeah. And so when, I guess, the European curriculum was continued when you moved here, and then now thinking about the history lessons you had here, did you ever touch upon anything like colonial past, colonialism, or anything to do with Africa in a critical way?
No, we didn't really. It was when we touched up on African history, it was just about slaves, really.
Okay.
Even then, it was almost like slaves came from Africa, and then this is what happened when they got to America. This is what happened when they got to Brazil. This is what happened when they got.
So the crime itself was not really addressed.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay. And
we didn't have power a lot, actually. Most of the time, it was quite dark. We used to have this. I don't even know what you call it here.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I know what you mean. I actually don't know the name.
We used to have that most time. When we had electricity,
like oil lamps.
Yeah. When we had electricity, it was seen as privilege to an extent to have electricity. To have TV was fascinating. To eat rice was fascinating. When we had meat, it was amazing as well. That was another reason to celebrate. But that would be occasions like Christmas. Then you get rice and meat, and it's like you know, and there's so much joy just from there. Because, like I said before, when we talk about Congo, sometimes people will tell you Congo is one of the richest countries. Congo is one of the richest countries. But how is it that Congolese people are one of the poorest people? You know, so who does the money go to? It's not going to Congolese people. Even with like a lot of political problems we have now, part of it is us saying, actually, we notice that our political leaders are not distributing the wealth to our people. They're making deals outside into European countries, and so we get Europe who are benefiting from it, and there's a lot of exploitation there.
Do you think Europeans would live the way they would if they didn't have these resources?
I feel like Europe lives on Africa. You know, like well, somehow Europeans have managed to make Africans feel like they need them, but it's really the other way around. It's sort of like a bit of a manipulation.
Anything else to add?
I would just say, as black people coming from the background where there's been colonization or slavery, I think it's very important to just do some research yourself. Don't just go based on what the media kind of teaches us. Research on your own country. You know,
and feel the pride.
Find out your background, feel the pride, and be very proud of yourself for being able to mold different cultures and being able to find that balance, because it's not easy to leave home to try and make a new home when you're reminded that you're not home. And I think people should be really proud of themselves for being able to live through that.
Okay, thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me.